Kuf Hey on base. Missed 2 days, but Baruch Hashem was for Bris and Bar Mitzvah. We're still happy to be back.
Yes, if you're in the market. Happy dancing.
I might be.
Cheap, $250.
That's very good.
Not a bad deal.
Alright, Kuf Hey on base. 105B. If you go to the wider set of lines, you count down 3 lines. So towards the end, there's Tana Mishum Rabbi Shimon. Alright?
You mentioned the passage before Yaakov Bilam Abak here.
Alright, just explain the verse, yeah, so back up to Vayakom Bilam.
One line up from that.
No, same line.
Same line, yeah. There's a little yud, and it quotes the pasuk. So,
Yeah?
yeah, Miyad Koyes, and there's a little yud there, you see it?
Yeah.
It's 3 lines down from the wider set of lines. You have it, Robert?
I have Tanam Mishum from your.
So back up a bit. The same line, let's see the pasuk. Okay, so we're discussing the story of Bilam, and we went a little bit through his personality, blind, lame, his great knowledge in knowing exactly the moment when Hashem would be angry, but Hashem withheld that the duration of his being around. And now the Gemara gets to more of this. And here's a very interesting few lines, which have very strong Hasidic overlays, which we'll share, God willing.
I just wanted to back up for a second.
Yeah.
Bilam, Hashem didn't express his anger during.
It seems like there was no access. The usual daily access point wasn't available during his period of.
So he didn't have that moment of.
Even though he knew when it was,
Okay. Right.
access was blocked. That's what it seemed like. Okay, so the present pasuk like this. The Gemara quotes the verse which reads, "Vayakam Bilam b'boker." Bilam woke up in the morning, and he, saddled his donkey. So this expression, and he woke up in the morning. Vayakam Bilam, sorry, it doesn't say b'boker. B'boker. Sorry, woke up in the morning, is an expression of excitement, enthusiasm, something which you find by somebody else woke up in the morning to saddle. By Avraham, also woke up in the morning and saddled his donkey. And that's the Gemara is going to comment on right now, the comparison between the two. The two that are both saddling their donkeys early in the morning to express their excitement about their task. The person's excited about what they're about to do in the morning. They get up.
Yeah.
So the Gemara comments like this. Tana Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The following was taught in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Quote from that teaching. Ava, love, mivateles shura shel gedola. Love breaks the rule or breaks the ordinary routine boundaries of the great one in the positive sense. From Avraham, this is where we derive that notion that love breaks the boundaries of what one of ordinary routine or ordinary behavior. Ksiv, as the verse reads, Vayashkem Avram b'boker. Avraham woke up in the morning, saddled his donkey, and got his son, and they went excitedly to go do their task, which in that case was sacrificing his son.
Even chopped wood.
Chopped wood himself, and as all the details of the story are said quite elaborately in the Torah, and how Rashi and the commentators break down each word in describing his excitement to get his mission done. So certainly, if the entire episode is breaking the rules of normalcy, being willing to give up your own son, especially after Hashem promised you this is going to be the son that's going to be your offspring, then one could maybe make the argument that Hashem directly reveals himself and says, do this, that's enough to inspire someone to do it. The Alter makes this point actually in part 4 of Tanya, I think it is, where we talk about, the Alter asks a very simple question actually, why we make such a big deal of Avraham, who almost killed his own son. Throughout history of people who literally died, and sometimes giving up their own children for Hashem. It's happened throughout history. And one of the things Alter says there is, even though there are comments on that as well from the Rabbi, but Alter basically makes the comment that the enthusiasm, waking up the first thing in the morning to go run, get it done, not like, look, this is a reality of no choice, this is what Hashem wants, this is what I have to do, but rather the excitement of doing it in the morning, that's the uniqueness. His rizus, his excitement, his alacrity. And that's what's expressed here. His intense love for Hashem break the rules, besides the fact that he's doing this unfathomable, or ready to do the unfathomable, but nonetheless, he's not doing it dragging his feet. Hashem said, so I have to do it.
It's like Rabbi Akiva when he was martyred.
He was happy about it. Yeah. Actually, Chassidus points out that Avram's Mr. was even greater than Rabbi Akiva. But that's another subject. But yes, similar idea in terms of the excitement and enthusiasm to do what Hashem wants and not dragging his feet because that's what Hashem said. So this is in the positive sense that the love that a Jew can have for Hashem can break the rules of normalcy, as it were, in the positive sense. Sinna, and the same thing is conversely. Hatred. Enthusiastic hatred. Mevatela Shura also breaks the rules of normalcy. Shel Gdola, of a great one, in the negative sense. And this is derived by Bilam from Bilam. As the verse reads, Bilam woke up excitedly in the morning and saddled his donkey. Because he's full of hatred to go curse the Jewish people. Not like, I'm getting paid for it, so I'm going to go do my job. No. He was excited and did it anyway. So here you have already a Talmudic hint to this idea that's expressed in the famous discourses of Basi Legani, which we talked about a little bit. The idea of shtus, diktusha, of shtus, which literally means folly. And actually, in the, sorry? Foolishness. In that Maimer, the Frierdiker Rebbe, previous Rebbe, goes through the terminology shtus, which comes from the word sat, which means to veer or to go off the path. So there's the shura, as the Gemara put it here, there's the ordinary path, you do what you have to. And then there's sat, and there's the sin tes, which is like samach tes, similar to the word soita, as he explains there at length. But shtus, which literally means folly or foolishness, also comes from the term to veer off the path. So foolishness would be, there's the straight and narrow, logical, this is the proper thing to do, and then there is veering off the path. Now, a person can veer off the path in the positive sense, or a person can veer off the path in the negative sense. And here the Gemara is telling us both. The person is overly excited and passionate in love with Hashem, he can veer off the path and do more than it's expected. Do more than is required, expected, and with the whole enthusiasm beyond just doing it technically. And then there's the negative. The sat, the shtus, the foolishness. The person is so excited with hatred, God forbid, to Hashem and his people that he excitedly goes to do the negative. And this is one of the messages of that mimer there, that a person should take the koch, the enthusiasm, the shtus that a person feels for the world around him, and not rid himself of that enthusiasm, but veer that enthusiasm that it add more excitement to his service of Hashem. So the person's a passionate person, he likes to get up in the morning and get things done. Don't change that personality, but now use that in the service of Hashem rather than in the self-serving negative sense. And this, I think, actually leads us to the next Gemara, even though on the literal level the Gemara is just continuing the discussion of Bilam. But nonetheless, I think there is a connection between these two statements, as I shall explain. So Gemara says as follows, in continuing the story of Bilam. Rav said the name of Rav. As a rule, Yasik Adam b'Torah mitzvahs, a person should involve himself in the study of Torah mitzvahs, afilu shleila lishma, even if he's not doing it for the right reason. Lishma means for its own sake. Right? The proper way to serve Hashem is not for selfish reasons, and certainly, or not even out of routine. The proper reason to serve Hashem is lishma, for its own sake. We talked about this on Shabbos, and we'll share a bit of that. For its own sake, for the sake of Hashem, that's the proper way. But nonetheless, says Rabbi Yehuda Marav, a person should nonetheless, as a rule, study Torah and do mitzvahs, even if it's not for the right reason. Should be Torah Shalei Lishma, because he's going to, from his behavior, in doing it for the wrong reason, eventually he'll come Baal Lishma, he'll come to do it for the right reason. That's the meaning. The simple, ordinary understanding of this is the way it's classically understood, is that you learn Torah every day, and your motivation at the beginning is selfish, for reward, for glory, to prove a point. I don't know, 1,000 other reasons and motivations a person has to Torah and mitzvahs that are selfish motivations. But eventually he'll get to the point where he's going to do it for the right reason because he's going to see the beauty in it.
So could Bilam have been transformed?
So the Gemara is about to tell us. That's the simple reading of this Gemara. And now what does it have to do with Bilam? So it says it with the Marav. We learn this from Bilam. Why? Because of the, not from Bilam himself, but the story of Bilam, which is the person who hired him, the king who hired him, offered offerings to Hashem, specifically 42. So even though he did it for the wrong reason, he did it self-serving. In fact, he did it for the purpose of trying to gain Hashem's favor so he can actually be successful, so that Bilam could be successful in cursing the Jewish people. Bilam, the prophet he hired. But because at the end of the day he brought these offerings, so Zachary merited the Yotzim men Rus, and Rus came from his descendants, who is the grandmother of David HaMelech, great-grandmother. And as the Gemara concludes, Amar Beisi Bar Huna, Beisi son of Huna said, Rus was Bita Shel Eglon, daughter of a person named Eglon, Ben Benoi Shel Balak, who's the grandson of Balak, Melech Moav, the king of Moav, Haiso is who he was, and this Balak is the one who hired Bilam from Midian to curse the Jewish people. So the Gemara is simply saying that even though he had a wrong intention, eventually it led to a good thing. Now, what's interesting what's interesting here is, and this the Gemara itself indicates to the Hasidic reading, is that I said before, the classic reading is keep on studying even for the wrong reason, because eventually you'll get to do it for the right reason. Now, what happened in the story of Balak? He himself never ended up doing it for the right reason. It was generations later and reward for what he did. Not that he himself ended up doing it better. He didn't. He died wanting to curse the Jewish people. It wasn't like he was involved in for the right reason. Eventually, he started doing karbanis for God for the right reason. He was always doing offerings for the wrong reason, as it were. So where's the teaching from Balak? But in light of the Hasidic explanation, it follows. Namely, we learned this Past Shabbos in Tanya that the Alter identifies 3 levels of motivation for serving Hashem in this context. There's more, but in this context. One is Lishma. You're serving Hashem for Hashem's sake. That, says the Alter Rebbe, is motivated by love for Hashem. He used the example, why am I doing something for a friend of mine? Truly for a friend, not for something in return, but doing it for that person, because I love the person. So doing it for Hashem's purpose is to love Hashem. Now within love of Hashem, there are multiple levels. 3 he identified there, corresponding to the words of Tzira, Priya, and Tzira. But nonetheless, they're all in the category of Lishma, for the sake of Hashem, and that he's doing it out of a love for Hashem, whatever type of love that happens to be. Then there is someone who is doing it Shaloi Lishma, meaning to say, he's not doing it for the sake of Hashem. Why is he doing it? Out of routine. Just out of routine. He did it yesterday, did it the day before, his parents taught him, this is the way he grew up, so he keeps on doing it. Rote. Autopilot. Mitzvahs anashim ulamada, quoting Alter Rebbe quotes from the verse.
No feeling to it.
No feeling. Not the positive, not negative. This is just his habit. And the third one is lower than that, where a person does it for a negative reason. He does it for selfish purposes. He wants to be a scholar. He wants people to honor him. He wants whatever it is he wants. He wants I don't know. He wants selfish reasons. And Alter Rebbe says that at the lowest level, a person is doing it for a negative reason. So there is a trapping of klippa in his Torah, because the motivation is selfish. Klippa, kedusha, holiness, is defined by that which is surrendered unto Hashem. And here his motivation is egotistical. So his motivation is klippa. And therefore the Torah mitzvahs, as it were, even though it's godly, for sure, but it's trapped, as it were, in his motivation of klippa, and needs redemption through teshuvah, as explained there.
That's what we were learning in
Shabbos, that's right.
It doesn't get elevated.
It's the end of Perek Lamed Tes 39. Yeah, end of 39. And then there is a person who's motivated, a person who does it out of rote. So it's not trapped in any klippa, but it's not elevated to any extra level of holiness because he put no feeling into it. So there, says the Alter Rebbe, all he has to do is restudy or redo that same mitzvah, but this time do it with a motivation, and it'll elevate even the one he did without motivation.
So it doesn't need to do tshuva.
No, because there's no klippa to break.
Right.
It's just a question of elevating that which was left dormant. So if I learned Gemara with no motivation, just because I always learn, it's part of my daily routine, and then the next day I go back and learn the same Gemara, but this time I do it with a sense of I want to connect to Hashem, Lishma. So now yesterday's Gemara gets elevated to, yesterday's learning gets elevated to. And the Alter says is the meaning of the words, Mitach Lishma Balishma. Learn even without motivation, because later you can elevate even that one. Following? Later, when you relearn and you redo that mitzvah, you can elevate even the time when you did it without the right motivation. and therefore learn without the proper motivation, because that learning isn't going to go to nowhere. It will be elevated later by the sake of a tshuva or by the sake of you relearning it again for proper motivation.
So if your learning was not exactly identical, meaning you may have learned some points from the earlier lesson,
But this time do it with a dead motivation.
those will be brought up as well.
That's
Those
correct.
Insights.
That's correct. That learning will also be elevated because now you've done it again with the proper motivation. Or if what's required is teshuva, you'll elevate the past learning through the teshuva because now you've broken, as it were, that selfishness that motivated you the first time. Now, what does that mean to you? That means that it's not a question of keep on learning because eventually you'll get to the point where you'll learn for the right reason. But what it means is that the learning you did before has a redemptive element. And eventually could be elevated as well. And that's indicated in the story of Balak. Why was he rewarded a few generations later? Because even though he was doing it for the wrong reason, deep down there is a godliness there because at the end of the day the act was a good act. He gave karbanos. So eventually, generations later, that act was redeemed and thus resulted in the reward of his grandchild being Rus, who's the ultimate Gyotis, the one who transforms negative into positive.
Didn't he have to do a sort of tshuva in order for that to get
So Rus is that teshuva, as a word. Actually, the author mentions there that even if he doesn't do teshuva in this lifetime, some other lifetime he will do teshuva. Right? Eventually, the author says there, why should a person learn for the wrong reason? Because eventually it can be elevated. So he says that because at the end of the day, every Jew is going to do teshuva, whether in this life or another life.
So is that an indicator that he did do it when that was released?
So Rus was the teshuva for his grandfather. Like the Alter writes that another lifetime there could be a teshuva elevating.
Teshuva on his behalf, or was
That's right. So as a result, her teshuva, her transformation, becoming Jewish and becoming a Gyotis, brought with it all the positivity that was trapped in his negative motivation. Thus, there's a reward here in it because there's a kedusha in his act.
Didn't we learn last week that the son can do tshuva for the father?
Well, that tshuva can do mazaka, can give him a
Merit. So it's a positive kind of thing, similar kind of idea.
Similar.
Maybe it's a similar kind of idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not so much tshuva, it's just more the
Descendant.
mazaka.
But there's a transformation here.
The descendant.
Does it say they're related
Credit
topics?
descendants.
Mitzvahs
Sorry?
can
Credit was a count.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that what you see from the story of Balak is, it's not that the meaning of מתוך לשמה בלשמה, from your behavior, from your motivation of Torah mitzvahs in the negative sense comes the positive. It doesn't simply mean that eventually you end up learning the right way. But what it means is that you're in your learning that was done in the wrong way, there is a redemptive element. Proof, Balak later gave birth to Rus, even though he himself never changed his ways. So likewise, in our learning that's not in the right motivation, deep down there is a holiness there which could be redeemed. And that's the second related following.
Yeah, I have a question that I should have asked like 20 minutes ago, but why do we care about Balak? Was a Midianite or something, right? It's not. We're talking about Teshuv and all these.
The Torah tells us the story, it means something for us to learn.
About Balak. Like, what is
The Torah tells us the story, it's because it's something for us to learn. Right?
Even can learn out even from a Balak. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Torah wouldn't have the story. I think I quoted this once before. I was listening to a class by Paltiel, and he was saying that the Torah is history. It's not history of events. It's history of purpose. So there are events, generations in Torah that are written in 3-4 lines. This person gave birth to this person, gave birth to this person, gave birth to this person. Fast forward to 1,000 years later, and then in the span of 15 years, 40 years in the desert takes books and books and books and books. Because it's not a history of what happened so much as a history of our purpose.
Actually, even the 40 years, most of it's the first year and the last.
Exactly, it's even less than. It's right. They travel from here, travel to there. But whenever the Torah is telling you a story, it's because there's a message and a lesson to you. So if the Torah is telling a story of Balak, it's because there's something for us to learn from it. Otherwise, the Torah wouldn't tell us.
Israel also.
100%.
We have Torah, named after,
Much to learn.
portions of Torah named after.
There's much to learn from Yisrael. Why he was specifically a preparation for Torah's gift, for giving the Torah. That's explained at length in Chassidus and elsewhere. Okay, so this idea that when we say learn even for the wrong motivation, because eventually you come to the right motivation, means not simply that eventually you'll end up learning for the right motivation, but it means that the learning you did with the wrong motivation can in and of itself be redeemed, either by your teshuva later or another generation. But that learning itself, which was done the right reason, could be redeemed, could be elevated. Lends itself to the next explanation of this, which ties this whole thing together, is that the language here is מתוך לשמה בלשמה, which literally translated is from within the wrong motivation is the right motivation. Comes the right motivation, meaning to say deep down, even in the Torah and the mitzvahs, the person was doing it with the wrong motivation, there was a neshama that always had the right motivation. So even if my conscious motivation is selfish, buried deep down is a neshama saying, I want to connect to Hashem in that Torah and mitzvahs. And that's a question of only redeeming that.
This is even more significant given the fact that it applies also to non-Jews.
Even to Balak.
Right.
Who's doing it for the worst motivation.
Strong messages.
That's right.
In here.
Right. So deep down, there's a godly energy in him that's saying, let's do this for the right reason. And that is redeemed 5 generations later in her granddaughter. So even a Jew or anybody who's motivated by learning for the absolutely wrong reason, you should know, even though consciously you're doing it for the wrong reason, on some deep subconscious level, there's a neshama saying, I'm doing this for the right reason. And eventually when you do teshuvah, or when a person recognizes that, he will have redeemed the Torah he learned for the wrong reason, because he always, deep down, did it for the right reason.
You can get that feeling on Yom Kippur, because you can go through most of Yom Kippur thinking, I just want to get through this. I just want to, another page, I'm hungry, I can't wait to eat. And then all of a sudden you hit Nila, and all of a sudden...
what was I thinking?
Your neshama kicks in, and everything you did till then is redeemed, because you realize...
You're always doing it for the right reason.
I was always wanted to do it for...
Yeah.
And you kind of regret that the fact that you didn't have the same feeling 5 hours ago that you did at Nila. So it's kind of... You could,
And I think this connects to the previous Gemara, in that the previous Gemara talked about this idea of going beyond the norm. What's the lashon? Vatelas shura, breaks the ordinary routine in the positive and the negative. You can understand them not as two separate things, but rather as like I indicated from the previous Maimon, it's one and the same thing. You're taking the same enthusiasm from the wrong way and putting it the right way. Because in every reality there is the redemptive element. You just got to find it. To the point that Kabbalah says that when a person is physically hungry, what's really going on is the neshama saying, there are sparks of godliness in the bread that I want to elevate. But it comes out consciously as I'm hungry. Which means every feeling, every sensation a person has its redemptive element. So even the part of me that's passionate and excited and right now it's presenting itself in a negative way, it has an element that could be used in the right way. It can go from hatred to love.
So that's the body's gift, I guess, to the neshama.
That's correct. That's correct. The gift and what the elevation that the neshama gets by coming to the physical world is all the enthusiasm that the animal soul has that it would never get on its own. Because a godly soul does what it's supposed to. An animal soul, on the other hand, runs around here, there, coming, going. This is expressed in the verse that Chassidus always quotes, which is Rav Tvois B'Koyach Shoyer. There's much produce in the power of the ox. I mean, if a human being tried to thresh the ground, it would yield very little produce. But you put an ox in the front of the human being, now all of a sudden you can produce a lot. So likewise, the godly soul on its own, how much can it produce? But you put an animal soul in the hands of a godly soul, now you can get a lot done, because there's a whole enthusiasm, a whole excitement that it brings with it. So it could start out, God forbid, in the hatred like Balak, like Bilam. But it could be transformed to have, like Avraham, in love, which is similar to the next statement, which is, even though initially the person is doing Shema for the wrong reason, deep down there is the right reason. And it's a question of only redeeming it and elevating it. So the person doesn't really have to abandon who he is, but rather find the redemptive elements of what he has and redirect them in the positive way. Even motivations that are wrong, starting out at least, deep down there's a good motivation that could be elevated. It's very powerful Gemara. Okay. A few more lines. So we mentioned Rus. And we mentioned Rus, of course, is the great-grandmother of David, and therefore the great-great-grandmother of Shlomo Melech. So in that relationship of children to parents, in terms of kings, the Gemara now relates the following. Amalei Rava Rabba bar Mari. Rava said to Rabba, son of Mari. Ksiv, the verse reads, these are the servants of King David speaking to King David, and they're giving him a blessing. And they say, Yitev Elakim, may God do well, as Shlema, the name of your son King Solomon, future King Solomon, Mishimcha, it should be greater than your name. The Yigdal as Kisai, and may God raise up his throne, Mikisacha, more than your throne. So the Gemara asks,
Who gave that blessing?
the servants of David, or King David, are blessing King David.
Oh, okay.
I think it's after one of his rebellions that he was successful in.
No, so this is the end of his life.
At the end of his life, okay.
The
So they're blessing him before he died. Let King. I guess they're telling King David, we're going to be loyal to the one that you chose to be your successor, as opposed to the other breakaways. Many. So they're telling him, may your son be greater in name and in throne than you. So the Gemara asks, So Rav, asks Rabbi Bar Mari, is it appropriate to say such a thing? To tell a king, you're great, but your son's going to be greater? Not nice. Amarle, so Rabbi Bar Mari said, they don't mean more than your chair, but me'ein ka'amarle. They mean similar to your throne, that his reign and his name and his throne should be akin to yours. They didn't mean literally more. And Rabbi Bar Mari cites a proof text that even though the language seems like it means more, it can actually mean similar to or akin to rather than actually more. Where does he pick this up from? If you were to not agree with me that when the verse uses a language which might seem like we're asking one to be greater than the other, it really means similar to. If you don't accept that interpretation, the following verse will not make sense. Says the Gemara like this. I don't know, I'm not sure who's speaking. But it's a blessing given to Yael, the wife of Chaver. The character is not so important as much as the blessing. So it says like this. Tovarech Menashim Yael, Eishes Chaver, Hakini. Blessed from all women is Yael, the wife of Chaver the Kini. Minashim ba'ayel, greater than women of the tent. Tovorach, may she be blessed. So the literal language would imply that her blessing is greater than the blessing of those that were in the tent. Who are the women in the tent? So it says the verse, Nashim ba'ayel maninu. Who are these women in the tent? Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. Is our matriarch, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. And if the Gemara says, is this appropriate? Do you think it's possible that we're blessing Yael, that she should be greater than Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah? These are the greatest women that ever lived. So, Ella, therefore you must say, Me'ein Kamar. What it means is not that she's going to be blessed more than Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, rather akin to. Now, since the verse is clearly means akin rather than more, Hachanan Me'ein Kamar. Same thing true here when they're blessing King David that his son Shlomo should be more. They don't actually mean more, but it means akin.
Yeah, this is the Torah speaking as a Levi.
The Torah speaking and blessing Yael.
Yeah, that's give you high praise what you did.
Okay. She's the one that took down Sisera.
Yeah, that's right.
So there you have it.
That's I have Torah for Bishalach. Yeah.
We read that in Haftarah.
Exactly.
The whole song.
The whole song.
Torah for what?
For Bishalach.
Bishalach, last week we read the whole song.
Shira, because both are Shira Torah.
Yeah.
Shira,
So all to say that it's clear that when the verse is blessing both Yael, that she should be blessed from her matriarchs, doesn't mean more than, but rather akin to. And likewise, when they're saying that Shlomo should be more than from his father, doesn't mean more, but it means akin to. It says the Gemara like this. This is a beautiful statement. Pligid Rabbi Yossi bar Chayni. And this is a dispute with Rabbi Yossi, son of Chayni. Why? Rabbi Yossi bar Chayni, because Rabbi Yossi, son of Chayni, said, B'chol adam miskana. A person can be jealous of anybody in the entire world. There's no one you can't be jealous of. Chutz, with the exception of your benoi, your children, talmidoi, and your prodigal students. Those are the two people that you're happy to do better than you. Anybody else doing better than you, it's likely you become jealous. It's human nature, and it's part of the service of Hashem to contain and deal with that jealousy and do all kinds of avodah and contemplation and meditation to deal with that jealousy. But for a child and for a student to invest it so much and you want him to see him do well, no jealousy. You're happy for them to do well. And where do we know this from? Benoi, the fact that a person is not jealous of his son, Mishlema, from King Solomon, we just saw before. They blessed King David and said, let your son be more than you.
That's right.
He's learning the verse literally, not like Rabbi Bar Mari, who said it means akin to. He's saying it means literally. They're blessing and that Shlomo should be more. And he's not jealous. He's happy. Let my son do better than me. Fantastic. Now, where do you know that people are happy for their students to do better? Talmudai says the Gemara, Ibay Sema, two options. Adi, you can learn from Vayhina Pishnayim Baruchacha Elai, which is, Eliyahu Navi speaking to Elisha. Before Eliyahu Navi goes up to heaven in the famous, he goes up with his body to heaven. He turns to his prodigal student and successor and says, may the Spirit of God be upon you more than me, double. So Eliyahu Navi is happy for his prodigal successor to do better than him. One proof text. Another proof text from Moshe and Yeshua. When God tells Moshe to anoint Yeshua as successor, God says, put your hand on his head. But the pasuk says, "Vayismach es yadav alav vayitzavehu," that Moshe put both his hands on Yeshua's head. So even though God said, put one hand, Moshe Rabbeinu is adding of his own. Let him do even better than me, and put two hands on his head. So here you have this idea that a person can be jealous of anybody in the world. So first of all, just because you're jealous of someone, don't think it's anything wrong with you. You're a normal human being. You know, human beings are jealous. It's part of life, and God willing to deal with it. But children and prodigal students, a person should be proud of them doing better than them. Everybody wants their children to do better than them. The proudest thing, if they're more successful than you are. And likewise, true relationship between a student and a teacher and a student is such that a teacher is happy when a student does better.
There's a teaching in Hayom that in spiritual matters you should always be envious of the one who's above you, and in material matters
look at the one below you.
Look below me and say, I'm happy with my lot. I think
Yeah.
so it's the same concept.
Yeah. You can also say as a lesson here that if a person feels jealousy towards a son or his prodigal student, it means he's not being a good father, he's not being a good teacher. If you feel jealous of somebody else in the streets, okay, you're a human being, deal with it. But if you're jealous of your own children, if you're jealous of your own students, then you're failing as a teacher and father. All right, anyway. Wonderful day, everybody.
Good day.
Very powerful Gemara today.
Yeah.
There's more powerful Gemaras coming tomorrow, also again about transformation.